Hey, thanks for stopping by the old Vinyl Village Garage again, working on Budget Build Bird. Maybe that's the name. I haven't decided. I'm not quite there yet, but nonetheless, 68 Firebird convertible. Try and get back up to driver status, not blowing the budget or breaking the bank. A lot of B's here so far. Anyway, gotta do the floor pan today. Finally got the rocker panels patched up, toe boards patched up, rear trunk area patched up. It's ready to finally go, with the exception of I need to install the convertible bracing to the floor pan first. That there bracing onto here first, so that makes it a lot easier to do it out here. So I'm gonna get that put on to that, and then we can put it into this big hole in the car. Now, if you haven't been watching much of this, the entire rocker panel on that side, the inner panel was dead, gone, junk. Driver's side back here, corner, not much better. I'll get you a close-up of that, get you a quick recap of where we're at. And then we're gonna drop one-piece floor pan in today. That's the plan. Talking about when it comes to convertible bracing is this thing here. I actually salvaged that off the original panel. They're actually in really nice shape, surprisingly, but that needs to go on this first before I can actually install it. And a couple of other side notes. I'm gonna cut the hole out for the shifter lever, drill a couple holes for the console while it's out. It's a whole lot easier while it's out of the car. And then before we get really carried away, I didn't take the rear spring mounts out. I have new nuts here for the systems to actually hold the spring mounts in. As you can see from the previous video, somehow they've got a bolt through that thing. It's not even a stud. So I will have the factory style fasteners put back in. So I have these. I got to snap those in first, weld our panel in, cut a couple holes, drill a couple holes. I'm thinking about using the torch again for that opening, because that's what they did from the factory, but they haven't decided. But nonetheless, that's where we're going to get started at. Oh, quick, and one more thing. 1968 Firebird for sale right here. What you see, mostly original metal, but a little bit of surface rust, but I think she'll come around if you work on it a little bit. Let me get you a little before shot. This is the bracing kind of laid in place roughly. The question sometimes becomes, where does this go in relationship front to back? Now, there really isn't any measurements that I've ever found, but I do notice on the actual floor pan, there's actually an indentation. There's a little change in height here. There's actually a pocket for this row to ride in. And typically, depending on how true this opening is, somewhere between 8, take a drop tape measure from here to here, 8 to 8.25 to the vertical face here gets you really close. But for the most part, it's got to lay in that little pocket and clamp it in. The biggest thing you got to be concerned with is too far forward, you may interfere with the subframe mount. But I can tell you this will clear. That's where my other convertibles are set at, and it seems to work pretty good. And a little fun fact, FYI, I traced out, because I have the original panel, where they use the torch to cut the opening for the automatic shifter. So, still on the fence whether I use a torch or actually cut that out clean. But from the factory, I actually still have that panel over here. I actually use a torch. I read about that, but typically by the time I get a car, this is long since rusted out, hacked out, 4-speed conversion or whatever. So normally I don't see an original panel that often, but you can see the slag when they actually torch that out from the factory. So anyway, enough of that garbage. So I think the next step is start in the center and do the same thing. Use the screws and screw the panels together and work from my center out so I can get this thing drawn up tight. And it'll pull the sides in closer also. So next step is get the drill and the screw gun and get going. Now, of course, for this procedure, you're gonna need a couple of screws to screw this together. So I recommend getting a small bag of them here. They go for about 30 or 40 cars. I found this bag on a piece of equipment leftover. So it's destined for the scrap pile. And I said, man, that's gold in a bag. So I'm gonna use these up here, put this thing together, and save a few bucks on some screws. show you some progress here. The idea of starting in the middle is pull it tight here centered. Now the radiuses of the factory brace and repop panel is not exactly spot on, but you can see it's pulling it up real tight to the floor pan. But starting in the middle allows me to, because this pan wasn't even touching, it was almost a 1/4 inch off, but started here, drew it about 1/8 inch, hit it here, drew up the other 1/8 inch, close the gap. And keep working it across. It's actually now laying down nice and tight all the way out to the edge. Now the back there, you can still see a heck of a gap between the brace and the floor pan. So same idea, work my way here in the center, kind of draw it that way, and then keep working it down and pulling it to the outside. And I'll do the same thing back there. Just want to get you a little progress here, but 11 billion more screws to go. All screwed together. Now, not that you want to watch put every single last one of those screws in there, but interesting observation. I've never been able to recycle an original brace before. Typically they are rusted out garbage. So note to self, I think even though this is a nice AMD stamping, there's just enough difference. The front piece here matched up nice. I didn't take apart the spot welds, maybe that's the difference. But these rear pieces, just as you can see, don't quite line up. It's really tight against here. So it's not like I can move the panel this way any further, and not like I could position it this way, because I also have the same results here in the back. So I guess what I'm saying is there must be enough discrepancy between a factory floor pan, AMD, factory braces, etc., all mixed together. It just doesn't quite line up. So either next time, take it apart here, or it's really not all that bad. I'm just kind of being critical, but the line is here. You got a gap on this side, so it still pulls up tight to the floor pan, but not exactly how I like it to look. But again, I'm gonna go ahead and start doing all the plug welds on this. I'm thinking about standing it up on the wall kind of like this, because I'm kind of tired of being bent over here. Put it up against the wall and start burning it together that way. So I think that's gonna be my next step. Get it stood up and start doing some plug welding. And I suppose you're gonna let the fun begin, but every single one of these holes, every single one of these screws, and then some more, need a plug weld put in it. So this is probably gonna take a lot of time. But you'll see what it takes to get the thing welded together. And once this is done, I'm gonna find some help, get that thing lowered into the car so that I can get the thing welded in. Okay, here's what we got so far. These are the ones I've just completed. 11 billion more to go. But the idea is to make it look like it's a factory plug weld or spot weld, I guess you could say. But these are the factory spot welds from AMD. And you can see it's kind of a little circular indentation. Same thing, circular indent. So by the time you paint that and cover it all up with some maybe even undercoating, it actually looks very correct or factory. But unfortunately I got a bunch more to go, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get all those taken care of and get some help onto the next step. All right, all the plug welding is all done. All came out pretty good. A few of them probably a little more. Okay, plug welding is all finished and complete. Quite a few count pretty decent. Now this isn't a 100-point show car. Still want it to look kind of nice and put some good work back into the car. But I think the next step is put a little coat of something on there to keep it from rusting or slow it down, because it is bare metal. And then find a way to get it put down inside there. Well, one last look of a Flintstone powered 68 Firebird. I did put some new body mount bushings, fit real nice in the frame. Fortunately, I didn't have to do any patchwork on that. That was a big added bonus on this one. Typically, those are rusted out in kind of bad shape, but everything's prepped in here. ready to go. One last look. Now I got to find a way to strong arm that little thing inside the car. Now the other thing I've also done in prep for this are the nuts here that actually hold the rear leaf spring mounts there. So that will be updated and corrected now too. So next step, get this thing in there. And what I've done, I put a welding blanket on here to protect that pristine finish of this really classic car here. The idea is maybe pick that thing up and kind of slide it down into place. So I guess here we go. Yeah, it went. Gravity helped over the last bit here. Next part. Good news is a nice heavy welding blanket didn't do any damage to the beautiful paint on this car. Now it's kind of in here. Next step is go ahead and get it to slid up into place and tucked up resting on the firewall. And then I might just actually take a break. Well, it's laying in there. Sure looks a whole lot better than that rusted madness that I have. Got a little bit of a gap there to make up, but I have to kind of make the assumption that old floor pan rusting out this car didn't kind of go anyway. There's actually a measurement for that. I have to look it up and double check that. But if not, oh, big old ratchet strap, you go around the whole car and pull it together. Seems to work pretty good. But I'm gonna double check that measurement first. But looks really good. But I think I'm gonna call it quits for today. Got the floor pan laying in there. Now, of course, you've got several hours of course, drilling and welding and getting in there. But as for first fitment, I don't see a reason to take it back out. And even where the body mounts are, I don't know if you can really see through there or not, but that metal bushing lines up dead center. So I'm gonna say that's ready to go. Start putting this thing in. So I guess if you'd like to see more videos of this bird coming back together, now I'm actually sitting on the floor pan instead of the concrete floor in my garage. Well, please subscribe. Check it out. I've got quite a few more videos you have to go to get this thing back to driver status. That's kind of the goal of this build without breaking the bank. But I think I'm going to call it quits for today. Appreciate you following me on this journey. And then the next step is going to be final fitment of this thing, tweaking it, getting it put into place, and some ratchet straps, come alongs, whatever, whatnot, to get this thing go back together. But looking really good. So I'm going to get out of here, get cleaned up, find something to eat, and I'm going to take a break. I think it's well deserved because I made one heck of a chunk of progress on this thing. And then I guess I'll get back to it, and we'll see you next time.